Hello everyone, Nubkeks here. In today's video I want to talk about gaming addiction. This was a real hot topic a couple of weeks ago. I missed it initially because I was away on holiday. But the World Health Organization came out and formally classified gaming disorder as a real thing, like a real serious mental health condition that people can suffer from, which can be diagnosed, and which needs to be treated. And of course, this sparked a huge, massive controversy. So I want to talk about it here, give my opinion, give my thoughts on it. What is gaming addiction? Is it real? Is it not? What is healthy gaming? Is it a thing? Is it not? So on and so forth. And I also want to talk a little bit as well about gaming and children too, because that was something I thought was, when I was thinking about this whole topic, that was something that struck me as interesting. So I'll cover that maybe at the end. But diving straight into this, I mean, it's the same with any public debate, really. I mean, there's an awful lot of nonsense that gets thrown around because this is how a lot of people think. A lot of people, they make very broad and very, very strong judgments on things based off of what they personally like or what they personally do. We definitely see this with gaming. To give you a couple of examples outside of gaming, that's a classic example, drugs and alcohol. Okay, so of course we know alcohol is a type of drug, but when you look at attitudes towards the two, you find a large number of people that will have absolutely zero permissibility towards drugs. Drugs are evil. Never do drugs, never touch drugs. But then are quite permissive of alcohol. Like they won't let you do it. You know, they'd be against, crazy nonstop binge drinking, but, just having a lot of drinks now and then, totally fine, right? No problem with it. Why this attitude? Because when you stop and look at it, objectively, I would say that, the arguments that are put against drugs, well, they obviously apply to alcohol as well. Alcohol is a drug. All the same effects, the same qualities, characteristics that are problematic with drugs are also problematic with alcohol. But there is this huge difference in opinion, this very stark difference and very strong judgments because people like alcohol. People drink alcohol and they have, they've grown up with that being a normal part of society. They've grown up doing it themselves. So yeah, this has a massive impact on how people make a judgment on the topic. Another great example that's super current as well. I mean, it was very, very much so evident for me growing up. So I grew up in Ireland. I imagine this is going to be the same for a lot of people in other countries, but this is religion. So Ireland used to be very religious. It's now quite non-religious, I would say. And in that transition, a lot of you see this very common attitude among people that are now non-religious is, again, they no longer personally like or personally follow religion. So this gets translated into is vilification of people that are religious, that people that are religious are stupid, that religion is evil. There's just, they don't leave any room at all for anything good to be said about religion or religious people. When I was growing up, for example, Richard Dawkins published The God Delusion. So that was a very common attitude. I'm not 100% sure on this, so apologies if I'm misquoting or it's inaccurate in any way. But I do believe amongst like the sort of new atheist movement that this is a kind of a very common attitude to have, and it's obviously completely unfair, right? It's completely unfair, the idea that there's nothing good at all about religious or religious people, or that they're just stupid. Complete nonsense, of course. And we see this exact way of thinking functioning with gaming as well, of course, right? So people that don't like they personally don't like, or they don't do gaming, this can very much facilitate and enable this overly negative attitude towards gaming. So I think the most classic example of this, a lot of people watching this will probably resonate with them, would be, let's say, parents looking down super negatively on gaming. Why are you wasting your time gaming? And social attitudes that, gamers are lazy. Again, it's something super common. A lot of us grew up with that, dealing with that. Or fighting against it, like why are you sitting inside gaming? Why are you not doing something super useful and productive, contributing to the cure for cancer by going outside and punching your friends out amongst the trees like a normal child would do? This kind of crazy separation of judgment based on hobbies that aren't doing anything particularly useful. The other side of the coin, and again, these two sides also can get more extreme in reaction to each other. But the other side is, of course, that, again, same thing with, like I said with the alcohol stuff, right, is that when people that do something or like something, so in this case gamers, when they like and they do lots of gaming, can become overly protective. They can idealize the thing that they like or do and be overly forgiving of it as well. And I think we do see this with gaming, because I think there are a lot of negative things happen with gaming. I'll touch on some of them in a second, right? But we come to the question then. So, gaming addiction is a real thing. Does it actually exist? And I think the answer is obviously yes. I think definitely yes. I think there's still a very big question as to what precisely gaming addiction actually is. But I think there's no question that gaming addiction actually exists. Because look, sit down, look at anything, any aspect of your normal life, right? Your everyday life. These are things that you're all going to be doing nearly every day, okay? So let's say food. You can get addicted to food. Exercise. You can get addicted to exercise, going to the gym. You can get addicted to work, right? Work. You can get addicted to working. You get addicted to sex. You can get, like, people certain people in certain situations can get addicted to almost anything, right? Almost anything can be a source of addiction. And when you kind of look at it like that, I mean, the idea that gaming would be somehow magically exempt from this just seems bizarre. I have no idea how you could actually defend that position. It just seems crazy. Now, I think in some quarters of gamers, there's definitely lashback against this. Again, it's based off of, I think there's a very real fear. There's two sides of a very, very real fear here that's critical of the WHO, the World Health Organization, coming out with this. So the first fear is just that this will add fuel to the fire of negative stereotypes about gamers and gaming. And that's obviously a very real fear, because it's going to happen. Right, it will happen. People that are anti-gaming will latch onto this as something to prove their point. I mean, this is just how people work. It's how people think. The other side of the fear is that it could get in the way of proper debate into what's good or what's bad about gaming, that it might sort of poison the waters. That this is too soon, that it might disrupt the sort of scientific research and stuff like that. Again, I think that's also a pretty real fear. Of course, I think proper serious debate and discussion is usually the realm of a very, very small group of people. It's not something that you're going to typically see on your average everyday talk show type thing. I just, in my opinion, I don't really count a lot of that stuff as proper serious debate. There's a lot of nonsense that goes on there. But yeah, I think those are definitely some things. I mean, there's also a question, of course, of causation with any type of addiction. I mean, there's definitely the question of causation, right? Because this addiction is a very serious thing. Let's look at how they define gaming disorder, right? This is quoting from the WHO website. It must be of sufficient severity to result in significant impairment in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other important areas of functioning, and would normally have been evident for at least 12 months. So when they're talking about gaming addiction here, it's very specific and it's very extreme. I think one of the stats, again, I can't fully verify this, sorry, but the rough stat I saw was that perhaps 0.3% of gamers might have gaming addiction. So, it's a very, very small number. But with these things, there's always that question of causation. So let's say you do find someone that has significantly impaired personal, family, social life, so on and so forth, and they're playing a lot of games. Is their life impaired because of the games? Or was there some other psychological issue that is impairing them, and they're either playing the games, the games might be enabling that, or the gaming might just be completely incidental and have no relationship, no correlation like whatsoever. It's just something that they're just filling their time with it because there's nothing else to do because they're impaired. That's a real question, and I have no idea how to answer that or break that down because I'm not a psychologist. So we can move swiftly on. So the big thing that struck me thinking about it was, well, what about gaming and children? Because I sat down and I said, well, okay, I'm going into my 30s. In the next 10 years, I'll be in my 30s. That's roughly the time that people tend to have kids. So what if that happened? What if that happened? I had a kid. How would I treat gaming as a parent? How would I, parent my child as they go through their gaming life? What would I do? What's the best way to do it for a kid? And I kind of realized I have absolutely no idea, which I think says a bad thing about our education system, right? In terms of, well, we don't really teach people how to parent at all. That's kind of That seems like something that, would be kind of important to most people to know how to do. But anyway, yeah, I realized I had no idea. And I kind of sat down and I thought, it's easy to see how issues could crop up, right? Because actually, returning straight away almost to the idea of education being flawed, I definitely think, and I say this as, I'm trained as a teacher, I've done some of it, right? I definitely think the education system, it has a ton of flaws. And ultimately, when you're looking at, or when you sit down and people raise the concern of, well, what if gaming gets in the way of kids engaging with, education, or engaging with, going out and punching each other, out in the trees, out in the bushes, that sort of stuff. I can see where people are coming from, right? Because at the end of the day, you're looking at an education system. I'd say in Ireland at the moment, we're talking about, one teacher to about 30 kids. When I was certainly in school, definitely. I mean, it's changing a bit now, but it's this very academic curriculum. Like, we went in and we did, like maths and English. We did Irish as well, because I'm from Ireland, a foreign language. I did French, and then we did like geography, history, so on and so forth. All very technical stuff. We had some PE, physical education. But then, because I did higher level maths my last couple of years in school, I think pretty much breaking the law, but our school just didn't do any PE with us at all. Right? It's a very academic set of subjects that you're taught. And you've got teachers. Certainly in Ireland, it's almost impossible to fire a teacher, right? So this results, I think this results in there's tons of flaws at this system just immediately. So it's, it's a one size fits all type of situation, right? The class goes as fast as the weakest student effectively. So it can very much disengage the brighter, faster students. Because they just can't go ahead. They have to wait for the slower ones. There's just loads of issues that go into it. It's hard to educate teachers, right, to do different things. Academic school system, structured like it is, it's just not very good. I mean, even to give you an example, like physical education in my school, PE, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. Why? Because again, it's this one size fits all thing. It was, go out and play football with all the other boys. Because again, I also went to an all boys school, which is also not as good. Mixed schools are the best type of schools. I hated PE. I really disliked it, and that's definitely had an effect on me growing up, right? Really, that's definitely had an effect on me, because I was just never able to engage with it in school because they never catered towards that. I was more of a bookish student. There would have been lots of different activities in PE that I probably would have really enjoyed. Lots of things I could have enjoyed, but it wasn't provided. They just didn't have the budget. It was one teacher amongst 30. So it's just, well, I'll go play football. And in reality, what happened, you had a lot of those more bookish students that, weren't really into that type of PE, which is, we'd come in and say, oh, I forgot my sports gear. Sorry, I can't do it. So there's this total culture in the school, for example. We just, you go out and you just go off, sit to the side and, read a book, or go out and get a litter picker and clear up the yard, stuff like that. That's just what we did. And there's a bit of a social benefit to that, but there's a whole bunch of bad things too. But that was just endemic of the education system, right? It's just riddled with flaws and limitations. You compare that then to gaming. What you have with gaming is you've got a very competitive, super huge market, right? Multi-billion-dollar market. I don't know how big it is. Multi-billion just basically means very big. It's not really a number that we pay serious attention to. It just means very big, doesn't it? That's exactly what it means. It's a huge market. And you have these companies, and again, like we look at a lot of gaming companies, this is also a very common and controversial topic, is exploitation of their workers in gaming. But basically, they're designed to get as much money out of you as possible. That's their goal. They want to get you as engaged in their game as possible. They want you to play it lots, and they want you to spend lots of money on it. These companies do employ psychologists to work out how to make things as addictive as possible. How do we price things perfectly to get people to be willing to pay more? How do we design monetizable things within our game that will engage people, right? It's this huge business it's driven by capitalism, right? Which brings a ton of flaws. It's got strengths, it's got pros, it's got cons. And yeah, definitely when you apply this then and it comes through for, a child, it could be very easy to be like, you're at school, one of your subjects is just too easy. The next subject, you've got a bad teacher who's just yelling at one of the students for half the class. Then you've got another subject and it's just drudgery. It's just really boring. It's really unengaging. It's just not interesting. And then you go home and it's like, go do your homework, go do more of this work or whatever. And then competing against that are all these games. And there's so many different types of games. There's so many games. There's so many excellent games as well. And they're all designed to be fun, to be engaging, to make you enjoy playing them. I cover Here's the Storm, right? For example. People will sink in hundreds of thousands, just hours and hours and hours into the game, and they love doing it, and they can become super expert in it. Like, they know so much about it because it's engaging. It's well designed to do that because it's fueled by, business, basically. And so this is totally outside of, being an addiction, like an actual mental problem. This is just simply a fact of how the world works. I think is that, well, as a kid, it's easy to see how a child, how anyone could find, games, more interesting and more valuable than school or work. It applies to adults as well, right? You got your boring ass office job doing worthless work for your worthless employer, right? Stereotypical stuff. And I think it's quite common, right? I've got a very different type of job from most people. But if you look at statistics for job satisfaction, they're extremely low, right, across the board. A lot of people don't like their jobs. So you come home, it's easy to see how people will be much more engaged in, games and gaming than they would be in that sort of stuff. Or any other hobby. They might be super engaged in football or, going out to the pub, to drink that totally not a drug alcohol with their friends or anything, involved in, gossip about, we were just watching Wimbledon there, the two duchesses, I think they're duchesses, were there, gossip about that sort of stuff, all this sort of stuff. People get way more engaged and draws them way more in, because, work's just not that engaging. But this could happen with kids, and that's a big problem it's a big problem with adults as well, isn't it? If your work sucks and, gaming is like, this is a good thing about gaming. It's also a bad thing just about life in general. Like, gaming is the thing that cheers things up and, makes your day enjoyable. Hooray. But yeah, with kids, it could be a problem because as a child, much more malleable, you change a lot more. And if you're much more engaged in gaming and it completely disassociates you from education, well, that could have long-lasting consequences as well. So I think that is definitely a real problem. Our society, our lives are not designed to make us happy and fulfilled. They just, they're not really designed at all. It's just, we evolved from apes. And then we developed farming. That's a huge step. And then industrialization and things have just kind of grown off of that. A whole bunch of cultural stuff's happened as well, industrialization, all the rest. So yeah, your 9-to-5 job, 5 days a week, send the kids off to school, live in a semi-detached house in the suburbs, all that sort of stuff. It's not designed to give you the ultimate happy life. It's just, that's just the way it's happened. And there are band-aids, I feel like, put on that structure to try to cheer you up. Like exercise is a great example. It's like common to me now because I want to exercise more. I want to get out, but it's not something that's worked in naturally. And like, your life is not designed. Our society is not designed so that exercise is a great integrated and fun part of your daily existence. Not really. It's more like, well, you work 9 to 5, then you walk down your urban road to your local gym where a bunch of exercise machines and people are crammed into this, this one probably fairly big room, but you're crammed into this little room. It's not super ideal, right? Maybe the most ideal thing would be, I don't know, that's probably hunting, right? That's what we evolved doing, is running around and hunting animals. So, like go out in a big, safari park, with like a spear and a bow, and run with like your pack, your group of friends, to go do some hunting. That might be the best way, one of the better ways we could do exercise. It's not going to happen though, because people think hunting's evil. So boo earns on that one. No luck for you. But to bring it back to the point though, I think there's definitely a concern with gaming, and it's just the fact that you look at just life in general. There's a whole bunch of flaws with how it's set up. So school, work, all the rest. That these things can be deeply unsatisfying, can be really unengaging. And gaming is a thing that can step forward as something that is well designed to be fun and engaging and fulfilling and social as well. People often say gaming is, antisocial. That was one of the traditional stereotypes, right? Critiques out gaming is just an antisocial thing. And things have to adapt, and now the social aspect they have to reimagine it, because, oh wait, well, it's all online gaming now, and like Fortnite, that's the big one. League of Legends, HOTS, World of Warcraft, all the rest. So you have to find a new way. We've got to rephrase this antisocial argument to, okay, it's social, but in a bad way. You have to make it bad, but just change the social wording, because that's not the actual critique. Right? But yeah, gaming can, rightfully so, I think, step in and fill that gap. And it's not because it's particularly addictive, it's just because it's designed better to be what human psychology likes. I think that is definitely a big issue. On the positive side, though, I mean, it does open up ways to move forward so that we can improve other aspects of life. Like, we can improve school, we can improve education, we can improve the workplace. When eventually the capitalist system moves forward a little bit, as progress happens with it, right? These lessons that I think at the moment there's a whole bunch of psychological research and development that is, it's corporate. It's by these gaming companies to get you engaged. When that eventually gets out of just that corporate sector, comes more into the public sector and can be incorporated, that way of getting people engaged, generating that sense of fulfillment, of happiness, of enjoyment, and eagerness to learn. When we can incorporate that stuff into education, incorporate that into the workplace, and make them more fulfilling, I think that will be really good. So that's definitely a way forward. That's a way that these things can be positively used. But yeah, it's going to take a while to get there, right? But that's kind of what I think about this, okay? So gaming addiction is definitely a thing, but it's a small part. Healthy attitudes to gaming, I think it's a much broader question. And outside of any like addictive qualities or anything like that, I think there's definitely big concerns, I would say, about just the general overall structure of life and how gaming as a carefully designed activity can fit into that. And we see it's not just gaming. We can also see this, with sports. People get super into sports, super into lots of other hobbies, that can become a much bigger interest than, it's that stereotypical thing. I hate my job, but I love playing golf, and I just go play golf at every opportunity. I just go on holiday every opportunity. I play lots of golf. I hate my job, but I gotta do it so I can feed the family and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of psychological issues and, depression, everything that goes alongside of it. It's a big problem. That's life. And I think that's how gaming sort of fits into that whole general scheme. So yeah, let me know what you think down below, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.